What is up, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to WP Workshop. Today we're gonna be rebuilding the IKEA homepage using the new grid system in WordPress. So first of all, I'm gonna show you how the grid system works, how to use those grids, how to set everything up. And lastly, why would you even use those grids in the first place? Alright, let's check it out. This is the grid system in WordPress. So welcome to my always complex WordPress setup. What you're looking at is of course just a page and nothing on it yet, but let's change it. Let's call the page grids, pretty descriptive, and now all you have to do is just give it a / and then start typing grid. And what you're gonna see right away is the basic setup, the basic structure for what's gonna become our awesome IKEA homepage. And right up front you get to make some decisions. The decision is about how wide do you want your grid to be. So by default, WordPress is gonna suggest the width of 12 rem, which is fine, as a starting point, but you can of course change it a bit. And if you're not sure what you should actually place here, you can do a quick experiment, sort of. So basically the squares that you see here on the page, the rectangles, sorry, they represent the individual cells of your grid. So right now on this setting, considering the container width that you have set on your website in your theme, WordPress is telling you that you're gonna have 4 grid elements. But once you start using the slider here, you're gonna see that the number of squares on the screen is gonna be changing. So using this simple method, you can kind of get a grasp of the number of individual elements that you're gonna be able to show in your grid. So right now I have 6 of them, if I'm correct. Of course, you can go for more, you can go for less. For this example, I'm actually gonna switch to a more permanent measurement when it comes to column width, and I'm gonna set it to 230. Why am I doing so? Well, I am creating not any grid, I'm creating the IKEA grid, and I kind of tested it beforehand. I know this is gonna work, so you have to, forgive me for that. So what we're gonna do to make it work is actually when we check out the current website, the current homepage at IKEA, you're gonna see that those elements, all of them, are basically very similar. I mean, what's inside is very similar. It's basically an image or a video in the background, and some of those blocks are just squares, some of them are wider. Plus there's this one original block here on the right that sends you over to a specific store in your area. So having this knowledge, what we can actually do is basically create just one element, design just one element. So make sure that, the image is looking good, that the text looks what we want it to look. And then we can just replicate this design multiple times. We can basically create copies of this single cell, and this is gonna make our work much easier. Okay, so let's come back to my website. So what I'm gonna use here is actually a cover block. So as I told you before, you can only place one element inside a grid cell. So in my case, given that what I want to achieve is basically some form of a graphic of an image and then some other text elements on top, I know that the cover block does this job pretty well. And of course, a cover needs a background. So let's pick from the media library. I kind of already borrowed some of those images, so I'm just gonna pick this one, given this is the first one. Of course, not looking much as of now, but we're gonna change it just to get it started. What I'm gonna do is gonna make it a bit more presentable. We can go into style. We can change the overlay because I don't want something like that. I want something that's gonna allow the text to pop a little more and be barely visible in the image itself. So overlay classic black, we can set the opacity setting to 10. And then for the aspect ratio, as we can see, this is basically square. Square is good, so let's go with square. And then you're gonna see that all of those IKEA elements, they have a small radius here in the corners, like very small. But we can also use that, we can make it maybe more pronounced. Let's do 10. 10 is gonna be good. And then of course, you're gonna see that kind of when you go back to IKEA, let me make it maybe a bit smaller so that you can see more. So you're gonna see that this is a rather large square. It's certainly not a single cell. What I mean by that is that this cell is big and the one next to it is pretty small. So what I'm gonna do to achieve this effect is basically come back here. Again, I'm working on this cover. I'm just gonna set the column span to be 3 and row span still just 1. I wanted to take up 1 row. And as you can see, we already have a block that kind of starts looking the way we want it to look. Of course, this is a video. I didn't bother to, try it with a video. I just took the image, but you can use videos pretty easily. I just went with images for the demo. So now what to do here? Given that we need 2 lines of text and they are, pretty specific, and of course they do appear here in the bottom left corner of the block, each one of them. This means that we need to add some custom CSS, because by default you cannot really do much with the cover block in this regard, but nothing pretty difficult. So what I'm gonna do is just add a group here. And inside I'm gonna add a paragraph, I'm gonna add another paragraph, and then I don't really need this one here, so I'm gonna delete it. I also have the exact copy prepared. I'm just gonna put it inside in here. So this is the exact text used on the IKEA homepage. I'm gonna come back now to the group setting of this block. And as I said, to put this text here in the corner, we do need an additional class. So while on the group element, this one here, I'm just gonna add a simple class. This class really doesn't do a lot. Specifically, it does this. So as you can see, it's just changing the placement of the elements. But this is not enough. What we also have to do is change the size of this text. But this, in WordPress, this is all pretty simple. So let's set this line to small, this line to big or large. And also, I think this was, this is pretty thick. So let's just bold this one. Let us also tune up the line height a bit, just a bit. 1.1 for this one as well. Finally, one more tweak that we need here is just to go into the padding settings for this block. Let's increase this by a tiny bit. And here, let's just make it custom and let's increase the bottom margin. So let's go with that. Let's see the first preview. And alright, it kind of starts looking okay, but I think the text is bigger. Yep, it's bigger on the original page by IKEA. So let's just come back in here, let's tweak that to maybe extra large. How about that? Yep, extra large. Yep, looks better. This one's even bigger, but it's good enough. So now what? Okay, for this one, what we can actually do now is just to select this element, just, make a copy of it. But the next ones are a bit different, yeah. This one is wide, this one is way smaller. So let's do the wide one first. So this is pretty simple, really. All you do is basically take the cell. You go in here, we have 4 columns, so let's just change it to 4 so that it spans across the entire grid. And it's no longer a square, let's just do something wide. This one, of course, a different image. So let's just, replace the image. Let's pick this one since that was it. Okay, all right, we're getting somewhere. But also this text is white. So let's select this one, let's go into the style, let's change it to white. Let's change that to white also, and of course let's change the text. So the first line is this, the second line is that, and I think it's no longer extra large, it's a bit smaller. So let's come back and make it only large. I think we're good. I think if we preview that, it should be alright. Yeah, pretty good, pretty nice. Alright, next one. We have 2 squares. Again, let's just make a copy. Let's make it 2 columns, and of course those next ones are squares. Let's change the text to what it should be. Let's change the image. As you can see, once I'm running through it, it becomes really fast to do it. Let's make another copy. Let's start with the text. And let's replace the image. And that is that one. Cool, so let's preview that. And it is starting to look pretty nice. At this stage, when it comes to all the other blocks, I just make a copy, change the image, change the text. It's no longer difficult, let's just skip that. But we are missing one block, we are missing the yellow one. Here it is. Okay, for that one, let's, still start with just the cover. Why not? I can duplicate this one. But, given that it is pretty small. It's gonna be just 1:1. And let's change the aspect ratio to original. So right now, not a lot going on. What we can do first is just get rid of all the stuff that we are not gonna use, frankly. First off, the image, let's just clear media. And the original page has this cool yellow background. So let's just set that. All we do is go into styles, overlay. So I happen to know that the color is this one. So let's just set that. And of course, again, this is 100. All right, it's kind of okay. We're going in the right direction. So what's next? All right, go shopping and some arrow. So how we can do this one is use a group element that's gonna hold both of them. And for that, the row seems to be a perfect element to do it with. Okay, so to get it started, let's just, let's just remove this whole group so that it doesn't make the work more difficult. And to get started, as I said, we're gonna do a row, and inside the row, this is very simple at the start. We just need a text line. That one said go shopping. Again, let's just bold it. Let's increase the size slightly, maybe 1.3 should be good. I think so. Okay, so what we're missing right now is just, let's see, the icon, the arrow. So how to get it? My favorite way of adding icons to pages is just to use Author, the Author plugin. It has a cool icon element here, so we can just add it wherever. It's gonna be probably the easiest just to put it on top and then, switch into list view and then drag it where we want it, which would be here. So let's just put it in here. All right, it's in the right place, but we do want an arrow. So let's switch that. Arrow right, yep, looks good. And let's just change the setting here. All right, so let's see a preview, and it's starting to look okay. Here's the original. So what we're missing? We're missing a white line, a divider, and a link to IKEA local website. Okay, so how do we do that? I think I'm gonna actually add a group, normal group. Inside the group, I'm just gonna do a divider, yep, that one. Of course, this is just a piece of text. So let's just see if the structure is quite alright. No, I would want this paragraph to be inside the group. And now it is fine. So why do I even want the group? Well, basically because if you look at this design, you see that the text and the divider are at the bottom. So what I'm gonna do is, again, very simple. I'm gonna use the exact same class that I used for this text on this group right here. So that is it. And now when we preview this whole design, we're gonna see still something off. Yeah, should be white, should be smaller. This we can fix pretty easily. Let's just do medium or small, why not? And the divider should be white, so let's change it to white. Let's also increase the margin setting. And at this stage, it should be looking okay. Yeah, kind of, IKEA has those cool effects in here, but this is a different challenge, to do this kind of CSS tweak. But for what we need, this is basically the IKEA grid. Let's see it again. For comparison, this is IKEA. Kind of the same thing, just for, demo purposes. And another cool thing that I want to show you is what happens when you change the device. Let's go into inspect. It's set to be a mobile phone. So as you can see, the grid is looking pretty nice. So all the elements are, one below the other, quite neatly. They are all readable. You can see them very well. You can interact with them. And they are gonna, scale. Doesn't matter which device I switch to. Let's go back to the normal view. So in here, again, as you've seen, it's all pretty simple to do. Once you have your first grid, so as I did with this one, with this first one here, I just basically made multiple copies of it, then just tweaked the core setting, which is how wide the grid elements should be, which is in styles, and it's this one, column span and row span. So this is how I picked that this block, for instance, has to span the entire grid, entire 4 columns, where for comparison, this one was just 2 columns, and again, this yellow one was just 1. And the cool thing about grids is that you can have some great fun with them. I mean, fun, in website building terms. But what you can do is you can experiment with what's possible quite a bit more. So let me just maybe show you. Let's just make the screen a bit smaller so that you can see more stuff. So when I come back to the main setting of the grid, I can switch back to REM just to show you what I mean. And I can change the width of the columns, and because of it I can place more elements on the page, because why not? Let's maybe just move this one somewhere further so that it doesn't distort the rest of the cool things going on. I can also change this one to maybe span only 3 columns, and of course the image isn't looking that cool at this point, so I can go back to original maybe, so that it's, you know, more presentable. And this one right now, why not? Let's just change it to 2 columns, and look at that. This is a completely different grid. Let's see if it looks just as good on the front. And yeah, quite nice. Let's make it a little bigger. As you can see, we've basically just tweaked the main setting of the grid, the minimum column width, and it resulted in creating a completely different design. I've been having some real fun with grids lately, really. I've been trying to do all sorts of funny designs. Again, not funny, but you know, trying to see what's possible and if it can be useful on different pages, and I really enjoyed it. I really encourage you to do some testing of your own. There's a high chance you're gonna enjoy it as well. Alright, so that is it. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you're gonna check it out. I hope you're gonna check out how those grids work. What I've shown you is just a demo. You know, I was looking for an application that's real, basically. That's not just some exercise. I wanted to show you how grids are used actually out there by some other brands. And you know, IKEA is a great brand to take example from. Alright, so again, that is it. I hope you've enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe. I'm Karol, you can find me at wpwork.shop. And if you did use the grids already to create your new design for your website, then go ahead, don't hesitate, share it with me in the comments, share it with everyone. And yeah, you know where to find me. Until next time.